What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Stevie from the Sesh. What's going on? Like I usually am. Oh wait, let me move this out of the way so people don't know that this isn't starting soon and it has started. Welcome to the Sesh. All the fingerboarding information and news and stuff you need to know and keep up with to stay relevant. Like I said, I'm Stevie Harkins, longtime fingerboarder enthusiast. Today is a dope episode because we have a master level fingerboarder coming into the studio, I guess you could say, to come talk to us about being, an OG, what it takes to be an OG and what has brought him to that point. We have Chris Daniels, aka CD Player, on Instagram and all of his social media links, but we have him coming in. He's Flatface OG, Black River Ramps OG, Berlin Wood OG, just like all around OG fingerboarder since the start, since the dawn, since tech decks were given out with World Industry shoes when we all first started. Well, when the old guys like us just started, and I'm super excited to talk with him because he's gonna be a fountain of information, and we just get to learn about the guy that inspires most fingerboarders. Coming up, everybody watches his videos and his edits. And he put a lot of work into what he did. So before we get there, though, of course, we're gonna talk a little bit about what's happening in the scene. First thing I noticed today, word of Cherry Tape. I know once she gets to 8.5k followers, she's gonna add another member to the team, or she's having a tryout. That is awesome. Fingerboard Queen that owns. Cherry Tape is a good friend of mine. Came on the sesh earlier this year, and she is always a pleasure to have around. I know that Monorails just came out with that new stock with like fingerboard connoisseur, and everybody's gonna be carrying them. But basically, they got that new series of board rails, and they're looking super good, like a nice finish to them, real shiny. What else is going on? I know a bunch of drops happened recently. Everybody like every week, and like I said, there's always those brands that are coming out with their new set of decks, so make sure you're keeping an eye on that. I believe Arc Ramps just came out with a quarter pipe, and then Finger Ben is also just came out with a dual part with a good buddy of his, Jacob FV21. So that's definitely something you want to look into. I know Shred and Breakfast, all their members have been putting out tons of dope clips this week, and their page has been popping. So shouts out to them. What's interesting is I saw Cowply has been putting up more footage and stuff, so that's cool. The owner of Cowply, John Cowart, he's a good guy. Congratulations to P_H_D_ for joining Flower Fingerboards. I know he's a member of Cherry Tape as well, so congrats on gaining another sponsor and continuing to cement yourself as a pro rider. What else is going on in this world, man? Guys, who knows? I think that's about it in the sense of like hype news going on. I know that Encompass has got new wax coming out, and he's got a new drop coming out. Fingerboard Connoisseur just made like some dope customs, so definitely check his page out. And I always got a shout out to him, shout out to Casey, for showing love to the sesh. And then of course one of my favorite writers, Beast Pants Invictus, is coming out with a lot more footage recently, so that's dope that he's back on. Shouts out to him. Who else? Oh yeah, Silver Sun FB and Sweaty FB. They just came out with a new dual part, so that's definitely something you want to check out. I watched that a little bit earlier, so their tricks are looking mad tight and mad secure. And I think that's about it. I keep saying I think that's about it, but I don't know. Oh, also rest in peace to XXX man. I couldn't even say that. XXX. I know a lot of fingerboarders in the scene. I'm a huge SoundCloud rap fan and participant in the scene of that hip-hop style of music, and it was really sad to see him go. And I know a lot of people have their opinions about shit that he did in the past, and it was some scummy fucking shit that he did in the past, but no one deserves to get their lives taken away, so just remember to be human. And try not to be too much of a meme lord on the internet, because it truly will desensitize you. But let's not get too far off the goal here of fingerboarding and not stray away. That being said, I think we're going to give Chris a call. Anything that I forget, I'll just kind of finish up at the end there. But, yeah, dude, we're definitely going to give him a call right now and get involved in this. So, yeah, that's your news for the day. And let's head over to the interview. We're going to give him a call right now. Of course, we got to listen to that lovely jingle. And here we go.
What's going on, Stevie?
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. How about you?
I'm good, man. Nothing much is really going on at work earlier, and I've been kind of just like prepping for this interview because there's a lot of questions I want to ask, and I don't want people to be upset that I didn't ask you certain stuff. So, so we're definitely gonna. I wouldn't say stressing over, but I definitely wanted to get some very like dope questions that people want to hear. So you're not just coming on here talking about random shit.
Certainly, and if you need to have a second or third interview, just let me know.
All right, definitely, dude. Thank you so much for being so like, and that's one thing I wanted to
Yeah.
share too. I always say this. I always play message tag with people. Chris, me and him have been playing message tag for a long time, trying to get this interview set up, and it's just like between our work schedules and his family and stuff like that in my school, it's just been nutty. But
Yeah.
finally, we get to knock this one out. I'm gonna ask as much as possible, so I don't have to have you come on here 5 or 6 times. But of course, I definitely will be using you for other stuff in the future. But
Right on. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
awesome. All right. Well, first of all, I kind of wanted to come at this interview very like I wanted to come at it generally and then kind of pick at it again like the second time we go through it. I kind of want to break this up into two parts. I mean, not like two different interviews, but I kind of have this written in two different parts. But I kind of wanted to start with you speaking, like just generally speaking on the beginning, how you started with fingerboarding. I'm talking all the way back to basically what led you to this point and kind of like I guess timeline, whatever you can consider a highlight. I know there's probably like a tons of stuff that you could probably squeeze in there, but like kind of give us like a timeline, like dot for dot as you got to this point.
All right, let me see where to begin. For me, the first time I ever encountered a finger skateboard was back in 1998. I was in a swim camp at Stanford University, and there was some kids in the corner that were in my bunk, and they were playing with the toy fingerboards, and they were tech decks, like right when they got announced in California, and they were released by X Concepts. So I was
Nice.
like, "Huh, those are pretty cool." Um, and then didn't think anything of it. I actually didn't even try to play with it, didn't even touch it. But then about a month and a half later, I was at school. It was middle school for me, and then I see all these kids playing with them. I'm like, okay, I gotta get them. I gotta
Gotta get my
get
hands
some.
on
So I
this.
had my mom to go to Toys R Us, get me two decks, and one was a new deal, and the other one was a real, and it was I think a Rob Gonzalez deck.
Oh
So
man.
still remember, yeah. So that was the absolute beginning for me. And then I'll keep on going with it because we're in middle school now. It's 1999. Um, there was so many kids that were playing. It was like the height of the first golden age of finger skateboarding,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was really cool back then. It was just all about like playing with it in class, getting them taken away.
Yeah,
I
and the teacher
probably
has like a
had like
pile of them.
yeah, yeah, I had like 50 or 60 of them taken away probably during that time. But we actually had some really good kids that were really good at it in my school. People doing like kickflip grinds back then, even nollie flips and stuff. And then one of the kids actually became also a sponsored fingerboarder about 7 years later, and I could talk about him some other time. So it's really cool how it started.
No, excellent. And it's like the very beginning of like people starting to take it seriously as a hobby. You know what I mean? Is the toy comes out and all of a sudden you got this crowd of kids, and whether it's in school or at home. It's funny how that kind of stuff catches on.
Right, right. And then back then they had a couple VHS tapes that came out with Tech Deck and 401 Video Magazine released them, and it was Fingers of Fury and Flying Fingers. And I got those VHSs. I'd pop those things into my VHS. Between that and Rodney Mullen versus Day One Song, or
Yeah.
the Globe video. And then like Shorties Fulfilled the Dream. So that was kind of what my routine was: go skateboard, watch skate videos, watch fingerboard video, fingerboard. It's like kind of my life when I wasn't doing sports.
No, that's awesome, man. Like you had that I skateboarded it all throughout middle school and like a little bit of elementary school, and then fingerboarding kind of went hand in hand with that because when you can't skate all day or it's too early or late, you can pick up the board. But as you were saying,
Definitely. Yeah. So then I decided I actually before fingerboarding, this kind of ties in, believe it or not, but I actually made like a Dragon Ball Z website when I was like back in like 1996 or 97. I was like a little tiny kid, probably fifth grade.
got
And
you.
then I
But
had a Pokemon website too. So I
right,
got really into two hobbies. So I was really into the internet. And I knew how to use it pretty well back then. So I just typed in like tech deck, and I stumbled on this forum, a community called techdecks.com. No affiliation with the official tech deck site. In
right.
fact, it got shut down. But they had a really cool community. They had a ranking system, like videos posting of these like one clips, because that's all people could do is one little tiny video clip, and that's how you get it. You download it. You'd spend like 20 minutes downloading to get one little video clip that's like shitty quality, pixelated, but that's what it was like. And I would see these people. I'm like, man, I'm better than all these dudes. The only people that are better than me are those guys in Fingers of Fury and Flying Fingers, you know? So
Right.
it's kind of funny. I was like, I'm as good as these guys, but I had to get a camera, man. I didn't
No,
have a camera.
exactly. Like that exposit, like you being exposed to the. Because I remember when my beginning of being exposed to fingerboarding, that's what separated me from the kids at school, is that I was able to Google before they did, you know. And it's funny that you said the Dragon Ball Z website and the Pokemon. And like, I feel like the kids that got exposed to the internet first were quicker to kind of catch on to, oh, there's more than just Ollie or using my thumb to pick this thing up. You know, I can actually like ride this thing. And I think that's so
Exactly.
interesting.
And for
Yeah.
me, it was just that people just tried to do it. We learned how to ollie on our own. We didn't even know there was anything. And then all of a sudden we saw like those VHS tapes that were released with tech decks and saw, oh shit, Darren Langhorst just did like a kickflip frontside Smith and then a tray flip 5-0. Holy shit. Tony and Damien from Close Up are doing crazy fucking like tourney spin grinds and stuff on their turntable. Matt Johnson's doing like heel flips into grinds as well. It was just unreal. So we're like, okay, there's more to it than just like little tiny tricks. You can combo stuff. It's just like real skateboarding.
No, that's so
Yeah.
interesting. You know, but, okay, so
Yeah.
going from like that point of fingerboarding, like that early phase of like just Tech Decks, the toy itself that's being mass produced. I have I like getting into like so much of the like the forums, and then that transition into the YouTube era. Like, what was your experience transitioning from like plastic Tech Decks to your first experience with like a wooden fingerboard?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did. I think my first wood fingerboard. I actually don't even remember what it was. It was some company that sponsored me. But then I got on a company called Vegas Fingerboards, which in the American online scene, that was like the coolest company you could be on. And
Right.
it was founded by a guy named Raymond Rivera. And it was kind of, think about like Baker or like Zero type of image. It was like all
Okay.
like hash and
Yeah, a little
stuff
more
like
hash
that. So I
sash.
was on the team. Yeah, it was super cool. Um, but honestly, I like Tech Decks better. Like Vegas's were like the ugliest boards ever, but they actually performed really good. So it was one of those things. Just getting free stuff and having your name on it was just really cool. But they were like, we call them banana boards. They were like bent like a banana. They had you use grip tape. They weren't like, there was no countersinking. It was very almost like a popsicle stick in a way.
Primitive.
But it was just so cool at the time to have a deck like that. And it looking back, it makes me appreciate how far fingerboarding's come since then. At the same time, they performed pretty good, and honestly, like the tricks that we could do on those boards are pretty impressive.
That's incredible. Okay, so before I let you continue down the timeline, I kind of wanted to touch, because when we first started contacting each other, you sent me like a series of videos that kind of timelined you as a writer, and I'm gonna be honest, I watched them a bunch of times because I wanted to see like how you progressed and how it has influenced the scene, I guess, so I can ask you kind of, I guess, more well thought out questions, and kind of going from like Form of Sin, like that early phase of you filming yourself and like, you know, it taking forever to just get single clips. I found it interesting that it's kind of like a two-part video, because of the fact that in the beginning you kind of have that like early YouTube like cheese lord kind of like, you know what I mean, like the humor of it, and you know, you're wearing the sunglasses and you're smiling and stuff. And in the second half, I realized you kind of like got more in tune with how complicated you want the tricks to be, and like the combinations you're doing, because in the beginning of the video, I found it was like more like, okay, kickflip grind on this, kickflip grind on that. And the second part of the video, you were doing like manual combinations, but you would go like back and forth. You know what I mean? And it was just like interesting to me. Like, what was that like? When did you feel like you kind of made that transition between like, okay, I feel like there's a way that this should look.
Right, actually, you kind of just nailed it. Like how you had it. It's two parts. I had two songs I wanted to do. The first one was David Bowie,
Yeah,
Suffragette City, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be fast paced and to be like really lighthearted and fun. Second half was Pink Floyd. Um, what's that song called?
I
Oh my
just
god,
watched it too. I
Young
cannot remember.
Lust. Young Lust. There it
Yeah,
is.
there you go.
And I wanted to do like a completely different, make it more serious, and do some pretty difficult tricks for that time. Like there was a couple
Yes.
tricks in there that I even look back and I'm like, damn, I did that pretty good.
On a
Like
tech
even
deck.
now, I'm like, that was good. Yeah, on a tech deck or like a Vegas fingerboard, which was even harder to do than a tech deck sometimes on certain tricks. Like nollie heels, like try
Nollie
to do
heel. No,
nollie
I
heels
was
on
just
my
gonna
board.
say you were.
Yeah.
That was like a once in like a blue moon trick for me, like as a kid, like being able to throw. But you were throwing them so consistently on that flat plastic. I don't understand. Like on grip. Like, sorry, I don't mean to. Like that's just incredible to me that you had such control at like that time.
Yeah, back then that was like the tough trick. Like everybody was like, if you could nollie heel into something, you've made it, because it was like the hardest trick you could do. People like would talk about how like this guy named fingerboarder named Remy Banks. He was a really good fingerboarder back then. He did like a nollie heel backside crooked grind on the Tech Deck 8, and everyone's like, oh shit, like that's insane, like freaking out about it. And I
Right.
was like, oh damn, I gotta do something with nollie
I gotta
heels.
be able to do
So
that. That's so interesting. Sorry, I
yeah.
didn't mean to like over like dissect the video, but I just found it interesting. Like I was like, there's something different about this part of the video, and I kind of want to transition from that, and I'll let you continue your timeline. But I wanted to talk about when I guess I should wait, but I want to talk about when you decided, okay, I want to step away from my personal self, and I want to just film the fingerboarding with the whole lamplight black
Yeah.
background thing. But I guess I'll let you push down the timeline of after you got your first wooden fingerboard and stuff, and then I guess when we get to that area, I'll ask you again.
Sure. Yeah. So the Vegas video was like 2004, 2005. I think it was 2005. So that would have been my senior year in high school. Then I got into college, 2006, and I actually didn't fingerboard like at all. Like didn't do anything. Then
Right.
2007, my sophomore year, I don't remember if someone contacted me, if I just decided to go check up on FFI, and I was like, oh man, what's this? Flatface is a legit company now. What the hell? Arctic. I'm like, I want to get on these teams,
Arctic. Oh
man.
my
So
gosh.
then I ended up started filming again, and if you actually watched my first handful of videos, they're very much like the Vegas style videos, except I was probably better in like 2005 than I was in 2006 and 2007.
You were well
Um,
practiced.
but they're very much Hesh. They're very much like Hesh style, like Baker style videos, which is what I thought was what I liked back then. And then I just like probably around 2008, my junior year in college, I was like, I want to do something different. Like I want to do something more artsy, just not to film fingerboarding to film fingerboarding. It was more sort of like a creative outlet to try out like video editing techniques, Photoshop techniques, all this
Right.
stuff that I
Combining the
was really
passions.
passion. So it became less about fingerboarding and more or less about like an expression of practicing like a practical form of like artwork, I guess, um, and I got a fingerboard, which is awesome. So
It's interesting you combined it. I feel like as you get older, you kind of, if you want a fingerboard, you kind of have to fit it into your new day to day, struggle. So that's
man,
interesting that you found
yeah,
that balance in college.
definitely. And back then it was like I had to have everything set up, as you said. It was like I have the lighting set up. I'd make my room all dark. I'd wear a black sweatshirt, cover my arms up so it's just a hand, which I love doing. I actually still like to do those type of videos.
No, it's super good
Um,
looking.
but now with Instagram, it's just so convenient. So just to throw a clip up.
All right, so to touch on that
Yeah.
question I asked you earlier, like with the video when I was watching it,
Yeah.
like in that area of like 2007 to 2009 area, you're saying you're practicing your film editing, you're kind of combining your passions and things like that, and then how do you think that, because I know you see nowadays a lot of people use that style of fingerboarding of of filming of like, I want the room black, I want you to only focus on my hand, and like even just like making the hand look like a kind of like the living like embodiment of how you're writing. How do you feel like that in like, how did it like ripple out, I should say, like who did you like when did you start seeing other people kind of start to catch on, like, oh, this is a really clean way to film?
There's a few people that were I don't know if I was necessarily the first. There were some other people that did it, like
I know there was a couple hand like fingerboard videos that were like dedicated to just the
couple
finger,
people, but
yeah, like the lamp style.
right,
But to be a
right, there
pro
was.
writer.
people were doing it too, because I made tutorials on how to do it that way. People were asking me all the time, how do you light it? How do you video edit it to make it look that way? What's the setup like? So it was just something that I'm glad kind of rippled out and stemmed from a practice that I tried out. And it really was, for me, it was also to focus on the trick and not get distracted by the background, you know?
Oh, I got you. Like,
So
you
it's,
know, looking off to the corner of your
yeah,
eye. Yeah. And the
and not
more
see my dirty
kind of
laundry.
no, I understand. Just looking at like, oh man, I feel like. Anyways, there's kind of like I call this kind of like this question like the cozy setup that you kind of lean towards when you're filming, where you kind of set up like two kickers on the end of an obstacle, and you kind of just like I don't know if I'm 100% correct on this, but as you film, you kind of just like hitting the same thing but going switch to regular or whatever which way you're kind of riding, and you kind of film through that. Like I noticed that during that era as well. Do you find that more satisfying as a fingerboarder to kind of keep that rhythm, or like I know a lot of people would like want set lines whether it follows like a certain pattern or not?
You're totally right about it. It's like that rhythm feels really good, you know.
Yeah,
And another thing to it, it's much easier to film, like self-film, when you have it all in one shot, long lens. Um, and you know, I didn't always have. I had fisheyes before, but even right now, I don't have a fisheye anymore. So I'm always doing like long lens shots and
right,
framing it up a specific way so you can see everything. And if
exactly.
I try to do like a line and holding the camera, it makes it difficult. So that's another reason why.
I gotcha. So you're focusing, you know, not only are you looking for a certain look of it, but it also helps when you're doing hard ass tricks, I guess.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah, when
cool.
you're comboing together, definitely. And it's easier to do harder tricks when you're only focusing on the fingerboarding, you're not holding the camera too. I'm sure you know it from like
Yeah,
filming self-filming
exactly.
Instagram and stuff. It's really, I'm getting better at it, but it's still tough.
No, I will say like even so, like with Instagram, sometimes it's easy to just knock it out if I like oh I'll self film this, but then you're just like damn I would have got this like 5 tries ago if I wasn't looking out the camera lens or like you know what I mean. I'm not looking at my phone like
Right.
making sure
And
I'm
then
in frame.
yeah, well then you realize you didn't shoot in frame. So, but I've come up with some little tricks that I've came up with my phone that make it so I can almost always get it in frame now, but it took a while.
Yeah, gotta trial and error that type of stuff. All right, now pushing forward, you know, you found out Flatface is legit. You're finding out like the fingerboarding, you know,
Yeah.
because I remember that era. That's like the YouTube explosion, and everybody's like watching Gary Chin's like how to kickflip video, and like you know everybody's
Yeah.
kind of catching on to the fact that oh man, this is legit. And then now companies like you said Arctic, like Mike Schneider was like a big writer of that and all that stuff. Like when did that like transition of oh banana boards to oh maybe we should kind of make this resemble a skateboard or even just the tech deck a little more? When did that kind of happen, and when did you notice that?
Well, I know in Europe there was like Berlin Wood and Black River, and they always had really professional stuff from the start. So probably 2000 and 2001. I know Black River was around 1999, and they were pretty legit. But in the USA, I'd
Yeah,
say it was really Mike Schneider,
yeah, of course.
totally Mike Schneider. Like he had such an influence with his wheels to the US scene and made it so like, hey, these are like really legit wheels. They make the board perform actually way better. Back you know even back then they were so good compared to what tech deck wheels we used or
Right.
people like kind of throwing stuff together and hacking their boards to make them work better.
Yeah, melting
Um,
them together and just kind of piecing whatever you can to make your tech deck work as close to a whatever you see on
right,
YouTube. Yeah.
right. And it was so much more difficult to like it's for the scenes. We knew there was a German scene, but to even get like a Berlinwood was like pretty tough. And same with like Black River ramps back then or Winkler wheels, you know, it wasn't easy to get. So we
Exactly.
kind of were self-reliant and we are contained in our own little bubble. But Mike broke that bubble.
No, yeah, it's interesting to see how he kind of
Like
was like, well, this isn't here, so if I bring this here and I do it my personal way, I can do this. And now you have like writers
yeah.
that you know he made it possible for everybody like kind of to do it. But kind of keeping on track here, as you kind of when did you get in contact with Flatface and like the Berlin Wood guys, and when did you start like gaining your first couple sponsors after like Vegas fingerboards and like kind of the more legitimated I guess companies you can say.
Sure. So I can answer that. So I'll start with Arctic because I think I had Arctic first out of those ones.
Right.
Arctic had a competition, a tryout video competition, and I posted a video. And then Martin, who owned Arctic just sent me a message and say, dude, why do you even send a trial video? You could just send me a message, you're in. I'm like, oh hell yeah.
I'm in.
And I was like, fix. I was friends with him, so I was like, okay, cool. And then with Mike Schneider, he sent me a message saying, hey dude, I want you on Flatface Wheels, are you interested? And I'm like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
So then and that was the start of a really good friendship. So I've known Mike for a long time, and I'll always be on Flatface. So sorry, wheel companies.
I mean, I don't think anybody would really like, in the sense of like the start of where you met Flatface and how you're interacting with the team over all these years. I don't think anybody blames you. You know, you got to stay. You know, you're an originator. You know, so you got to stay true to what you got.
My favorite. So,
yeah, all right,
and they're still to this day like they're.
No, I got you. But with Mike and meeting all those guys and like kind of realizing you're on that, I wouldn't say upper echelon, but you're kind of like in that first generation of, okay, we're the pro riders and we got to get this scene to kind of start bubbling. Like, when did the full overhaul to YouTube and kind of like off, like, I guess the Tech Deck forums and like all the foruming before, when you kind of just upload your post and kind of slap it onto a comment? And when did you think the overhaul to YouTube truly happened? Like, where everybody was like, okay, this is where you post your video, your edit.
2006, 2007 is when people probably posted on YouTube. Because when I came back, people were posting stuff to YouTube, and I'm like, really, guys? Like, are we posting on YouTube? What the hell is this thing? You know,
Yeah.
Same thing when I came back for Instagram too. I'm like, what is this? What's going on? But then people would still take that video, they take their YouTube link and they'd link it in the forum, which was cool. And it kind of changed how videos were made, because people used to make like really long full length parts, and then with YouTube we had an upload limit back then of like,
yeah.
I don't remember how short it was, but it just like Instagram changed from YouTube. YouTube changed from the old style of videos where we would upload stuff to Google Video back then. Before YouTube was even purchased by Google, I think at that time initially.
Yeah, it was just its own. It was its own
like
standalone.
Google Video and Vimeo as well. So, but yeah, so that's kind of the transition. And forums still played a pretty integral part at that time, of keeping everybody together. Yeah, I'd say around 2006, 2007.
Awesome. I was gonna say, just because I know forums is always something like, whenever like a platform came down, people would always return to like the forum scene.
Yeah.
And I just find that interesting that all of like the people of this general age always understood, like, oh well, when the forums went down, nobody really knew what to do. So, but before I get over there, but was gonna say, now you met Mike, you're kind of, you guys are all riding together. You kind of developed this upper niche of riders that are really like putting out incredible content, because during this period I feel like a lot of people will consider it the golden age of videos or whatever, because there's so many people making them. Who do you think was like the most impactful on your riding style during that era, when you were coming back after college and like trying to get re-involved and like basically trying to get yourself noticed and like, hey, I'm still here?
Man. Okay, that's a really good question. And initially, so when I first came out, it's gonna be a different answer based on the year probably. But right then it was probably Alex McMillan and Eric Smith, two guys that I don't know if they still fingerboard today. I know Alex McMillan will send a message every once in a while to me about wanting to play Halo, but those two for sure. Who else from that time? Of the German fingerboarders too that we would see occasionally. So
awesome. No, because I just would like to see like where your head's at, like where your head was when you were looking to see where I should go next. Because I don't know, being like a first generation of anything, most people will say, like, most of the people that come on the show will say, oh, Chris Daniels, Mike Schneider, and they'll like list all the people in America that have inspired them. But it's just interesting to me to see how far you had to reach, like whether it's like German pros or whatever, to find people to look at and be like, okay, this is what I can do, and this is where I can kind of like, because I would say it's kind of like looking to like not so much like a father or a parent figure, but like someone that you can kind of go like, oh, let's one up each other, because you guys are all kind of at that same, I guess, level, so to speak.
Yeah, I can. So I'll add a few more names then. So back then it would have been like obviously Martin Winkler. We saw some clips of him. And then like for me, it's like Tobias Fieler, Manu Oberli. We would see clips of Elias, and we knew that he was like the world champion and stuff like that. Boris Diachi, those guys, like they still are really good. They're unreal. But back then they were like kind of untouchables,
Yeah, so the highest level.
Yeah,
their videos.
And there's more like, but that's off the top of my head.
No, of course I can't expect you to. That's one thing I tell people is don't expect the. You're gonna forget people, and I know they're gonna be. I always forget my shout outs at the end, but it's just I'm asking you all this stuff on the spot, so nobody get offended. I swear we remember you. But
Definitely. That's why you got to have a little when you make some more episodes, we could do like a history with the professor, and I'll be the professor,
there you
and
go.
we can just go through subjects. There you go.
I got you.
And we
I'll
can
keep your
focus on
word
a
for
time
it.
period.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, okay,
Yeah.
so you've met everybody. You're kind of now you've kind of established yourself. Flatface is coming up, and I know he's like printing out all these different generation of boards and wheels because this is like a very huge growth period for Flatface. I know. How many? I've always wanted to ask somebody that wrote like how many different like versions of I guess Flatface decks and like I don't know as Berlin wood grew and stuff like that. When did you kind of find your sweet spot of decks and like kind of realize okay this is the way I like my board like whether you're like the like lower kick more relaxed concave. I know it's like very a certain time like when you realize okay I don't like these boards but I do like this. When did you kind of find like with Flatface and everybody you kind of were friends with and getting boards and like product from? When did you find your like perfect setup? I guess.
Perfect setup. I mean, I know that right now I like the just wide low, so like 31 millimeter
Yeah.
wide and low. But to be honest, I would just ride whatever I get sent, and there I never really there's a few boards that I've had that have been like so good, and I've had such good luck probably the past 4 or 5 like Berlin woods I've gotten, and a few of the flat faces that Mike have given me over the past like 3-4 years that I haven't
Right.
had a bad board. Like it's been like unreal. Like the boards for me have been perfect every time,
That's nice.
and to my preference because I know like how there's been some decks I've had in the past from different companies that just don't fit your style, even if they're good quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
I totally
but
understand that.
I think I narrowed it down. I like less concave, lower kicks, and it's um, but I mean I'll use anything.
No, I got you. Especially
Long
during
as
that
yeah.
developmental time, you're like, oh, whatever you give me, I'm gonna experiment with it and see what I can get out of it. Who knows? This could be the next big thing. That's interesting. You know what I mean? That you're like, as I get it, that's what I'm riding, and whoever's giving it to me, that's my team.
Exactly. That was
Okay,
kind of my mentality back then.
exactly. No, it was kind of more of a like I wouldn't say primitive, but everybody was like you're finding who you click with, and because it's so new, it's such a new hobby, I guess at that time to be combining with people. And I just find it interesting. Like when was the most? I guess looking at it now with Instagram, you can kind of tell the difference between like a hobbyist and someone that does it often. But when did you kind of see like oh, this hobby is growing big enough to where people could like are actually getting involved. Like, what year was the highest growth point? I guess you could say as you were kind
Uh,
of looking at it.
so the biggest growth period was probably right in that golden era as you're talking about. Like I think the peak from my experience was between 2009 to 2012.
Right.
If my memory is right, that's when I went to Germany 2 different times to go over there and visit. Plus, I did a little bit of work with Black River. Um, and it was just unreal. You saw how many people would go to the rendezvous, and you're like, "It's booming every single year. People
Yes.
are asking you for autographs." Then I go to Italy to this competition in Voghera, Italy, and Martin Winkler and I and Mike Schneider are in a coffee shop just by ourselves, like maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes from this event that's not happening until the end of the day. And then parents come up to us and have us sign autographs. I'm like, okay, this is pretty crazy. And then we go to the competition. There's like 200, 300 kids there, and or not even just kids, adults and kids fingerboarding. I'm like, this is insane. So I
Yes,
didn't
dude,
realize
that's
it until that
incredible.
point.
All right, another question. I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
piggybacking off that, what was the biggest, or I guess most fun you've had at the rendezvous, and like which one was it?
Oh man, okay, that's a good question. This past one was really good. I feel like that I went to this past rendezvous, and the reason why it was good was I didn't feel like there was any beef or anything. It was really cool, mellow. I felt like I got to see so many old friends again and
Right.
reconnect with them after not seeing them for 5, 6 years. And then at the same time, I met some really cool people that either just started relatively recently. I mean, since the last time I stopped fingerboarding, or stopped posting about fingerboarding. And then I got to meet people that have gotten involved but have been around for a long time that I just got to meet again.
Yeah, you get to
It was
see again.
really positive, very friendly people again. So the rendezvous is way long ago. Wouldn't be a rendezvous without drama. I'd say like way long ago. There was always like back in the day, but people have all for the most part have grown up.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And people
the
were younger. I
average
totally
age is
remember that.
older. Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. I have some stories. I don't know if I can share them, but when the first few rendezvous I went to, there's some funny stories. Maybe some other time.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know if I can, because I don't want you to, call anybody out yet, and maybe in the
Oh
next episode.
no,
But
I'll
no, I
call
don't
them
mean
out.
like by name, but I just mean like I understand. Like back in those days, like it was normal to like get into an argument on the forums or on YouTube with someone that's like, oh yeah, you're whack, like or like your tricks are weak, like my fingerboard way better than you. Like that was so like such a normal thing to face whenever you posted a new edit, like.
Right. It was totally normal for people to say, "Okay, your shit's boring. Oh, it
Yeah,
sucked." Like, and it wasn't constructive, but it was good. It was valuable feedback, I'd say, because that's how I learned. And then when
yeah,
people would post, like especially at FFI, it was like a tough love system. Like people would beat people down to get them to shape up to post correctly and be, like not just. I don't want to say respectful because the people that were talking trash to the new people
yeah.
weren't respectful, but it was like learn how to capitalize correctly, dummy, or like use punctuation. That type of stuff was pretty funny. But
Early
it's
trolling, just to make sure the form
yeah,
looks
it was a
clean.
lot
No,
of
but I
trolling.
remember that, I because it was I wouldn't say
Yeah,
cutthroat. It was more of like, if you weren't like I wouldn't say a norm, but you had to conform to like the style of posting and like how everybody kind of.
yes,
And but that's like normal rules nowadays, I guess, with internet posting in general. But it was so early for the internet. Everybody's like, why are you doing it this way? Or you're over posting, and like they would just beat the shit out of you over like verbally over the
yeah,
internet.
yeah. Yeah, I did my fair share of beating people like and that with my words, and I felt really bad about it. And people still come up to me and say, "Hey, man, thank you for being an asshole to me. I'm so happy you were because then I learned how to do this. I learned how to shape up." I'm like, I feel really bad, man. I'm not that type of person anymore. Like, I'm not gonna be mean. I'm not a mean guy, but I was back then. So,
No, I understand. We were all shithead teenage, well, younger, I guess you could say, and it's just like you're being aggressive about something you're passionate about and you're competitive in. So it's just like you were doing contests at the time. Ooh, that's another question. And I wanted to ask
yeah.
you contest wise, and you've been out there, you've been involved in like a ton, whether it was just like being there or like, I guess competing. What was your favorite contest, whether you were competing or like not, or I guess maybe give me one of each, one that you kind of just went to go, and then one that you competed in.
Okay, so my oh, man, that's tough. My two favorite ones I'd say is um, actual contest wise is the first rendezvous that I went to was Rendezvous 5,
Right.
and they don't really do contests as much as like they used to. And the reason why I liked it was because it was like a real contest format.
Okay.
Um, But I took my friend from Seattle who also fingerboards with me, who's like really, really good too. His name is James, and we both flew to Rendezvous for the first time. And everybody knew that I was going there, but no one knew what I looked like. And I didn't stay with Mike or anything. Like I didn't go with Mike. I went with a guy named Ben Gordon Pound, aka BGP. He's also on Flatface,
Okay.
and he was back then just a kid that was a fingerboarder. No one knew who he was, but he like offered for me to stay at his house, which is really cool. I love the guy. He's such a nice guy, and his
Right.
dad's awesome. Anyway, at the contest, I get there and everybody's looking out the window. The rumors are that I'm outside, and people are peeking their heads out. And there's Mike looking too. I can see him. And then finally, he's like, "Dude, you should just come in." I'm like, "No, I'm going to be with the rest of the people, man." And then, so we finally get inside, and then I go down. After a while of like fingerboarding, I get really fatigued because it's a lot of clicking and clacking. So my friend, I'm like, "Oh, let's go downstairs. There's a bar downstairs, Knights of Columbus. Let's go get a couple drinks, Not just
Right.
a couple, we have quite a few. And Ed Gardner's dad's down there, and I drink with Ed Gardner's dad, and we had some good conversations, got hammered, and then all of a sudden, some guy runs downstairs, and goes, "Yo, Chris, it's your run. You got to go up." I'm like, "Oh shit!" And I just
Oh
did
my
like
god.
probably a couple shots of whiskey, and then had some beers. So I go run upstairs. I'm hammered. And if you watch the Rendezvous 5 video, it's towards the middle or towards the end. I have my run. I'm just like destroyed, like hammered. I do my tricks, and I was actually surprised that I could land anything, but I did. So that's like my favorite contest I've ever had, and I had so many cool people there and a lot of friends. Um, the other cool competition was Battle at the Herricks,
Okay.
which
Those
which was
videos are all over. Those are classic videos.
oh Yeah, and I got to play against Elias, first
Yes,
round, and it was
Mr.
kind of
Smith.
exactly so. And it was funny because like the whole time, that whole day, Elias is just like, "Hey, we're playing." I'm like, "I know we're gonna play, but it's a random draw. We have no clue until you get called up. No one knows, and it's
Yeah.
like random drawing." And we're just joking with each other the whole time and drinking, like we're gonna play each other. And I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna play." And then we get announced, and that's why I think in the video you can see us like kind of like surprised and really
Looking at
happy
you like,
that we're
oh shit.
yeah, like oh shit, and really inside I'm like, oh, I'm out in the first round. So,
The
but I
confidence.
had a great time there. Yeah, well, I'm surprised I even got a letter on him. If I even did, I don't even know. Um,
We'll
he's
review the
just too
tapes. We'll review the
consistent,
tapes
man.
later. For all we know, you almost won. It was
Yeah,
it was T to E. It was
it was TDE, and really, I let him win. No, that's not true. He's
okay.
insane.
And I find that so interesting. It's such an early, setting a great example for all the youngsters outside. You're down there pounding a few before you hit your run, and you probably placed pretty well.
I mean, like I know Doug Bodkin won. But there was no like second or third place. It was just winner. So I don't know how I did. We should have to have when Mike comes on for an interview. We got to get him to tell you how I did.
Dude, I don't even think my messages have reached him. I messaged him and Pat, and I was like, what am I doing? This man probably gets 800 will you sponsor me DMs a day.
Yeah,
this is going to get lost deep.
It's hard to get a hold of, but I can get him for you. So don't worry about that.
No, okay. Thank you so much anyway. But I was going to say, real quick, I guess the question that I wanted to ask for this part is, being such a, you were the older guy, everybody's waiting for you to come out of the car, everybody's super excited to see you because you were kind of like an inspiration with early posting videos. Did you ever feel any pressure as like a younger, I guess, like in college teenager, like because like, oh, I'm around all these kids, like do you ever feel pressured that you had to be a certain way, as a fingerboarder, as a person, because you had everybody watching you, I guess, especially it being like a toy hobby?
Really good question, except for the fact that I just got tanked down below. So no, I don't care. No, yeah, I mean, pressure-wise, no, but I mean, there was a lot of young kids at the Rendezvous in Mike's place, and I love kids. Like kids are cool, they're. I'm always hyped to meet kids and just be friendly. So it was no issue for me. Like I'm always around kids with my family and stuff. So and for me, it's about seeing like, man, that was me, like when I first started, I was 10 years old when I started, and I was like the hypeness that they get and how quick they learn. It's just incredible. So
oh my
no,
gosh.
I don't think there's any pressure for me. In fact, I love it. So.
No, that's awesome. And like touching off just the kids and the youth and stuff like that, like with Instagram, and I complain about it a lot, especially on here. I hate how quick it is and it's kind of lost its edit feel, but just the level, like I guess the ceiling there is for kids now, because they can just look and go, oh my gosh, these slow-mos and all this stuff. Let me try and replicate that. And I got kids that are like 8 years old that are like, yo, look at this video. And even though they don't even know what I can provide for them, because I feel like people think I'm like a company or something, they're like, will you sponsor me? I'm like, no, but you're incredible. Like, what are you doing? like, no, I'm not going to sponsor you, but Jesus, man, like you're really good. Just stay at it, And it's just funny to me to see like you were kind of at an age where you're in middle school. Like, how do you feel like you would be if you were someone that found this at a younger age? Kind of like more like, you see the kids now that are kind of like 4 or 5 and older kind of getting their hands on it, whether they have like a parent that did it or like an older sibling. Like, where do you feel like you would have been at if you were starting then? And would you suggest it starting that young, I guess, to kids that want to start the hobby, even though it is like, I guess, a toy?
I would totally think getting young and playing with it is a great hobby to have as a young kid. In fact, my niece, and she's just about to turn 2, she plays with my fingerboard all the time.
Awesome.
I think it's great for hand-eye coordination. It gives you something to release creativity. Release creativity.
A little releasing.
Yeah, and then nowadays it's just so easy to like find videos and have find new writers in that way.
Right.
There's a bunch of benefits to Instagram, and there's some drawbacks for sure. And I'm happy to talk about both.
Yeah.
But the good thing about Instagram is the barrier to entry is so low. Like all you have to have is a cell phone, and you can make a video. That's amazing.
Exactly.
But there's other things I don't like about it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna save that conversation. Like I'm gonna move to looking to the future and looking to where it's at now. Like I'm gonna save that a little bit for the end. Kind of want to finish. I want to stay talking just about you for now, so I can get all the rest of these questions out really quick. But I guess kind of transitioning off of like, your first couple contests, when did you kind of see I guess you had one when you first went to college, but there's always those times in your life that you face, like where you're like, okay, I have to slow down a little bit with my content that I put out, or even just fingerboarding in general because I have this new job or whatever it may be. I know when I got to school and I started, now that I'm working outside of it, it's like, okay, I can't upload all the time, but I do want to focus on doing the interviews. Like, when did you kind of start, I guess, transitioning to like, all right, this is kind of like something I will always do, but it's not something that I focus on daily anymore?
Yeah, definitely. So it's happened many times, and it's for a variety of reasons, whether it's like a girlfriend or um,
Exactly.
I used to do a lot of gaming, so like a ton of gaming back in the day, semi-competitively. I'd go to tournaments and stuff for certain games.
Okay, yeah.
I'd play stuff like at a very high level
Right.
for games at one point for different games. Those both took a lot of time too, and it was just like rotating the passion. So I never like left it. I would play with it, but then sometimes I would like lose like my setup. I'm like, ah, fuck it. Like
Yeah,
I'm too
whatever.
lazy to go contact. Yeah, I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna focus on something else for a bit. I'd make music, like get into music as a passion or something
Exactly.
like that. I always am like switching hobbies, like whether it's magic tricks or like making music production or video editing. I always rotate hobbies, and it's kind of I never stick with anything for more than a bit, but I always
Right.
stick with it. I just don't.
It's not your
There's only so
focus at
much
the
time to
time.
focus.
It's like a rotational thing. And I
Yeah,
wanted to ask
exactly.
you like about some of your
Yeah.
other guys that you kind of interact with. I feel like a lot of people that do this hobby, with like fingerboarding, because like I guess in our age group, we kind of got into music and video editing and all this stuff because we had to kind of mess with it, and when using Windows Movie Maker and like all that shit when you were coming up to like make your edits and stuff. Like, I know Ronnie makes music now, and I know like even I do my little hip hop thing and things like that on the side. Like, why do you think it was so like I kind of already answered my own question, but is there anything else that you can add to why do you think it was so easy for us to fall into like other hobbies that require that kind of focus of media? I guess.
Right. It's funny because like in fingerboarding and skateboarding, you see so many successful people get into the arts, like or in terms of like music production. Like we
Yeah.
have uh I think his name is Ian O'Brien. He does his artist name is Noisestorm, and that guy is absolutely insane. He's like insane drum and bass, insane dubstep music, electro. He's touring and stuff. Um, my friend Ben Gordon Pound, BGP, he actually has had tracks and stuff. He's won contests with Steve Aoki, and same with Noisestorm, actually. Just crazy. His stuff gets like millions of plays. And I think
Right.
it's because fingerboarding is like a creative outlet, and it really builds up the creative part of the brain, which is why if you're younger, um, you become more creative. You're willing to try out new software, like
Right.
video editing software, and then you get stumbled into music because you hear a song you like. Same with gaming, I think also kind of does the same sort of thing as well with computers. You go, okay, well, I want to have my video to look like that. How do I do it? Oh, I
Yeah.
can't do it unless I learn how to use After Effects or like now Black Magic Resolve or
You're
something like
totally
that.
right.
Okay, well, let me learn that stuff. So that's how I got into it. Same with websites too. Like that's how I learned how to program, kind of make video games and stuff, program video games and stuff was through that. Like,
That's awesome. No, I actually never thought it's just kind of like this, the seeking of trying something new. Like hell, we're finger skateboarding for God's sakes. I feel like we've always been reaching. I guess people that do this are reaching for new ways to do everything. You know what I mean? So that's interesting that you
exactly.
say it like that. I actually never thought about it that way. All right, let's enter the last block of, or I guess the present block of where we are
Awesome.
in life. I shouldn't say last. We got plenty of life ahead of us. That made it sound super grim.
Hope so, man.
Yeah.
I hope it's not the last.
All right. Well, hitting into I guess we'll call it the present block. We did the very beginning, the middle, and now we're here. Um, and we answered like we have other focuses, and as you become older, whether you're a younger guy or even the older guys listening to us now, you start to realize you kind of have to balance everything, and there's like this balancing act. What would you consider your, I guess, fingerboarding regiment, or like how would you go? You know what? When you wake up in the day, hey, I'm gonna film some fingerboarding today, or like what goes to your mind, or what type of mindset do you have to film nowadays?
Oh man, it's nowadays. I'm sure you notice I don't post as much. I got a beautiful girlfriend, and then I have a
Right.
lot of work, so it's like I'm lucky if I get 5 minutes in, maybe. Um, but even in those, if I just do 5 minutes every few days, I feel like my skill will kind of stay close enough where if I go to an event, like we're having an event in Seattle, I think on the 30th of June, if anybody's listening in the Northwest.
30th of June,
Um,
guys.
yeah, it's going to be cool. There's going to be I think it's a G5 Black River Park brought over by Rolling Fingers I think it's from like Tri-Cities in Washington. Just a heads up, guys.
Awesome.
He's coming to town, bringing G5, promoting it. Get there June 30th.
There you go. Plugged in.
Seattle, Washington. Yeah. Anyway, like yeah, so when there's an event that comes up, like we have a really cool, like great group of fingerboarders in Seattle. So when I go meet with them, at least I'm not the worst person there. And you know,
I feel you.
'cause I'm not the best. Like those guys are insane. We have some crazy fingerboarders here.
Oh, that's awesome, and that's cool that you found a scene. Like I've always found Illinois, like where I am in Chicago, so interesting. Because growing up, I don't know if you remember or even recognizing these people, but we had like Bobby Hill fingerboards and like
Yeah,
Arc Ramps is from where I'm from, and Calply, and everybody like we're kind of all in the same like
John.
area, but like none of us went to school together, so we
Oh, yeah.
never did anything together, which I find is super
And those
interesting.
guys
And
are so good.
yeah, exactly. And I message Don on Facebook all the time, but he's always so busy that he never wants to come on. So I'm like, all right, thanks, bro. But,
Oh, for sure.
but
For sure. He's the nicest guy. I met him for the first time at the Rendezvous.
Yeah, he's a shredder.
And I think me and him think the same. We're both like trying After Effects, you know, learning. We both think the same way about everything, creativity, doing stuff with your hands. Like he's Unreal fingerboarder, Unreal skateboarder.
Yeah,
he's great at everything he does.
He's always posting
everything
videos of
he
like
does, he's
weightlifting
amazing.
and shit. But yeah,
He
no.
does. And then there's like John, who's such a good fingerboarder too, and
yes,
Chris Petronic, who was the guy that was like got on FFI way long ago, or RZF, I think even he was way long ago, and he was like, dude, my friends are way better than me, and so he was like, this guy Scott B, this guy John C, this guy Ryan, and Don are just unreal. I'm gonna try to get him on the forums, and then he would keep on trying, and then finally they came, you know, to an event, and then they started getting active. So it was really cool.
Yeah, it's funny to see how everybody kind of grew from like, I don't know, we all kind of went to the same, not the same school district, but like our schools were modeled the same, I guess you could say. So I remember like they would go to like this local skate park that was like, I guess the town over from me. And that was like the only time I would ever like interact with those guys, like just skating. And I don't even think they remember this, but I would be like, those are the guys that I see on YouTube that post all the time, but you know, we don't ever interact with each other. And I just thought that was so funny that like it was so split up. But like nowadays you see a lot of the company owners like that are coming up and stuff are these guys. So I just found that super interesting. But kind of tapering back to you. Yeah, no, what were you saying?
That the local community at Spurs. When
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
close,
it's a little spread
even
out.
more. Yeah, when you're close to each other like that, they had a crew that was close knit friends. It is boom, 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 and everybody improves, everybody innovates. Just
Exactly.
And then now all of them have company. That's crazy, huh?
Yeah, they've all kind of found their own little niche and how they want to, I guess, approach the fingerboard world. And I think it's so awesome that they're being so artsy about it too. Like I love the way Calply art has always been, and then Arc has come out so strong. So it's interesting to see how Illinois is kind of did its own thing, even though everybody was kind of on there. I know even Gary Chin is from where we're from, and he's somewhere hidden in Southern Illinois. So wherever he's at, yo man, come on the show. But anyways, tapering back to you, like I said, you know, transitioning into, you know, this rank that you have on Black River. I kind of wanted to talk to you about that and kind of what it took to reach that master goal. Like what made them start the whole master level, I guess, and when did they let you know you were not just a pro anymore? What'd you say?
No one told me that until like, I mean, I knew about it now, but like when it happened, I had no clue. Like I didn't know I was a master. But I mean, I'm good friends with Martin from Black River. Like I live with him, and we have a great relationship. I love Martin Winkler. Me and him like always have great times. Timo Lieben, you know, all those guys are good friends of mine. Like, I was basically over there every single day for like 3-4 months, and had a great friendship. They're like the most truest, honest people, and I'm sure a lot of it's because of me personally that we're friends. But there's a lot of people that are friends that are on Black River that are sponsored, but they're not masters. So I don't know what separates me from everybody else. But maybe I've been around for a long time and they're trying to retire me.
I wouldn't say that. I think it's just because you have been around since like for so long. There has to be something just above pro for the guys that have done this for the dawn, you know, since the beginning. And that's what I found was interesting is I didn't even know they had that rank either until I just recently looked to see what they had on you on the website, and I was like, oh my god, they have like the master rank now. But it makes it made like no one's gonna question that, you know. It makes so much sense. All the people that are on that list.
He's a good friend of mine. He's been fingerboarding with me for a long time, and he's a PNWFB, if you know him.
Yes.
You can thank him for getting me back to fingerboarding for like the third time. He always gets me back in. But he hosts all of our events locally. And one of our local events, he's like, dude, you know that you're a master on Black River? What's up with that? I'm like, what? So I looked up online. I'm like, oh my God. And I looked, and I was the only U.S. rider. I'm like, fuck yeah.
There you go, man. And I find that that was so interesting. And it's like, wow. And then, you know, you're kind of like, you do represent America in the sense of like, I guess I wouldn't say shuttling it over, because, you know, you have Mike and Pat and everybody that kind of helped out. But, you know, being that first generation writer to kind of look over and say, oh, there's a different way to do that. Yeah, man, you're a Jedi master, man. You know, you did it.
Definitely that stuff. There's actually a couple more things I think that contributed. I'll just really quickly talk about it. Like FB Weekly was this international blog that I founded that would give news and updates back then. It's dead now. It's been dead for a while, but it was like we had 14 writers from around the world. I would contact people like from Indonesia, Japan, Europe, all the countries over there. People would write about their scene. I try to pick like all the different representatives from the scene so they could write about their communities. That definitely contributed to it. And then being an admin on FFI for so long, I'm sure contributed to. So those are probably the other two things.
No, that's awesome. And like, yeah, that those ideas were so like ahead of their time. Like, I just find it funny that a lot of this stuff that like we're doing and, you know, like people are redoing, I guess you can say, it had already been done before. It's just, it was such an early time for it that it wasn't like really cohesive, I guess you could say, or like something that, and especially with the tools of how easy the internet and posting is now, like, I feel like there's so much room for growth. And just like being the first generation, is there any like things that you would like to see come back, or like anything that you would like to see, like, man, this is a great idea, it was just too young?
A thriving forum again, or some sort of way that we can have people communicate as well as like document, for example, footage or like articles and stuff like that. It's really tough now because people don't want to log in on their computer and go on the internet. Really, they don't really check. So I relaunched FFI. And I've been so busy with my personal life that I haven't been able to really to follow up with it. It had a great start, and then I kind of like didn't push it like I should have, and I messed up. Anyway, I wish I could build something like that, but it's gonna take a different mindset about it to make it successful. Because I don't think Instagram is going to be the only thing that fingerboarding needs. It needs more. Like there's something that is even as simple as something that's search queryable, like on Google. You can't type in someone's video on Instagram because there's no name for the video. You can't even find videos if you type it in Google. So like you can find someone's channel, you can't find their video. So it's all about this like now. But what about a video that's like, even if it's 30 seconds, I can't just type in a really cool video. I have to go look through that person's profile, and it's so much trouble to go scroll through like my video profile. I think I have like 100 videos on mine. Like, good luck finding a video there.
No, that's one thing that really grind my gears. Wait, what were you saying?
Nothing out there right now that can do that. So I've been trying to figure out how to do it, and don't think. I mean, I love FFI, and I'm going to keep it going. It's going to take FFI plus more, something more. Whether it's a web app, like a mobile web app, you know, something like that, where I have to come up with something like it's a hybrid app where it works both on cell phones and on the internet as well. Because FFI is not that. It's mobile friendly, but not an app. And I think it's going to take an app to do it. And I know how to write apps, and I'm thinking about doing an app, but I don't know if I have the time right now to do it.
I think like, cause like you said, with the whole searchable, like anytime I want to look and find, like, it's hell finding old videos that I remember from like way back in the day. Like, oh, I want to watch this old like Pat McGinn video that he featured in on Mike's page. Yeah, I'm not gonna scroll through like 10,000 videos. I think if you made like, I don't even know, because it would take so much time, but like some sort of like searchable wiki, like if I type Mike Schneider, I should be able to see all his full parts or all his like featured. But like, who can do that? Like, I even thought about like trying, like stepping to that, but that beast is so large. Like, because we've all, like, it's been years of like, and I wouldn't say undocumented, because all this stuff is still out there. Most people keep their videos on because they want to look back, but it's just who wants to go through with all that? Like, I think it would be like a whole community like effort just to get something like that up and running. So I wouldn't take too much personal grief over it there, Chris. Yeah. But I guess
talking.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
and I have an idea now, but I'm not going to talk about it now. We'll talk about it later when it
Okay,
launches.
I got you. I got you. When you have a little more of a schematic, I guess. I guess
Yeah, yeah.
talking. Let's transition into the current scene. What are your like honest opinions on like? I wanted to ask you this because you've seen it since the birth in the USA. How do you feel like from the birth of it to now? Like, do you feel like it's been a positive progression in how fingerboarding has grown and what I guess the kind of beast it is today? Like, are you happy with how it has grown and how it's kind of like nestled in Instagram and it's more clips and things like that? Or how do you feel about the feel of fingerboarding right now?
Right. So that's a good question. A lot of people would say, I miss the old days, blah, 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 but fuck that. Like, it's so much better in many ways now. Um, the fact that I feel like there's so much more activity, so much more buzz. I do miss having the community aspect of actually being able, like, of, as I said, search querying and really connecting with people and interacting and talking that's beyond just comments and little likes and stuff and focusing on video views. Like, there's a little bit too much of that going on in Instagram for me.
Yeah.
um, but overall, it's a huge net positive. And another big positive is all these like events that are happening all over the country and all over the world, like very localized like events. Plus, like, California has a ton of events.
Yeah.
We have events up in Seattle, like meetups. There's people like all over the place, and it's really
Exactly.
raising like the bar. That plus like the ease of access to do filming. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I actually really, like I said, like I don't complain. Like there's very little that I complain about when it comes to modern day fingerboarding. Like I know a lot of complaints about what I call or what people call quote unquote Chinese product or anything like that. And I said it the last session, man, if some of this stuff came out a little bit earlier, I would have been a happy kid, like P-reps, like broken knuckle and all that stuff. Like
Definitely.
it needs to be appreciated a little bit more.
Definitely.
But I guess kind of leaning and like I hate him complaining or like using specific people for examples. But I personally, I kind of want to hear your like opinion on this. But I personally feel like fingerboarding has kind of taken a too much of a liking to what like I guess what the brand product is, in the sense of like a lot of people, like there are accounts that have like hundreds of thousands of followers that just post setups and you never really see any true footage. And I guess just being an older person that like that's all it was before, like yeah, there's got to be room for a collector or a viewer on like YouTube and Instagram. But I feel like a lot of kids think that's what the hobby is. It's like, oh, how many fingerboards do you have, and not just tech decks, like how many like catfishes do you have, or this, that, and the other. Like that's just one thing that kind of bothers me. Like is there like, do you see any kind of like mirroring in that with the scene and like what products do for kids, I guess?
I mean, that's kind of, I want to say that started, really happening with Flatface, to be honest. Like, and same with, there was like Preets as well, by my friend
Yeah.
Peter Ringel. But I think there's room for collectors. I think there's room for products. I think it's great that people are willing to buy a bunch of decks because that lets somebody have money.
Yeah.
It's I think all that stuff's awesome, but there is a point with the shamelessness, maybe,
Yeah.
sometimes, and the fighting that happens and drama. But overall, I think there's plenty of room for that as well, personally. So,
Awesome.
but I can see how it kind of, you're like, okay, I want to focus on the fingerboard, not about a certain materialism behind it, right?
Yeah, no,
So I
exactly. Like,
get that
I think the
totally.
growth of the market is
I totally get that.
critical. Like I totally agree with the fact that like if no one's buying fingerboards, then there's no point in starting a brand. But I don't know. Like I just feel like when I like it just was more of like and I can't even blame every kid because there's tons of kids that are super talented that are collectors as well. So I guess I'm kind of stepping on my own feet here, but I just don't like people that like just tailor to the whole idea of, oh, like I can't wait to pick up this board, or I'm gonna pick up 6 of these so I can have 6 of them and someone else can't. You know what I mean? It's just like it's so interesting to me that like that's what you want to get out of it. But I guess if that's what you take from it, as long as you're enjoying yourself.
There's a point where it's bad, is where they're like buying a whole stock from a wanted brand, and they're holding on to it, and then they go on eBay and sell them for 10 times the amount or
Oh
whatever.
my
That's
God,
not good.
yes.
Like gouging, and that happens. That's not good. But if somebody's willing to spend, a little bit of their own cash, I'm totally cool if they're going to buy like a bunch of Flatface wheels. By the way, get 10 wheels of Flatface, get as many sets as you guys want.
Right,
Or
get a
Berlin
bunch.
Woods, yeah, get a bunch. It's tricky because it's so easy now with Alibaba and AliExpress to get fingerboard products, and for someone to start their own company. And just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Exactly.
And people are undercutting each other. it,
Yes.
and not saying that people shouldn't go in and becoming a company owner, because I think they should, but think about like a handmade product versus something that is shipped from China. We need to have, I don't think we need to have Chinese boards, but that brings the barrier to entry to more professional for younger kids and people that don't have money to spend on a Black River. They can get it in fingerboard. But at the same time, it kind of diminishes uh, the people that are doing it for the right reasons, that have the companies
Right.
for the right reasons, from doing it right. And I think somebody that's looking at doing a company, if you're going to do it, see if you can learn how to make a deck well by hand before you start doing your company and promoting it, or wheels or whatever the product is. And we're lucky that there's a lot of room for people, I think, now to have companies.
Right.
So don't let me discourage you, but do it the right way.
I just think like yeah, going off what you said, like it's not so much of like whether you can do it or not. It's like making like I feel like a lot of kids look at Mike or look at people that started brands when the scene first started, like, oh, they were kids too. I can do that too. But like the thing is, they brought that for, like it was more of like a test in the field thing because no one really had it out here. So you can't really compare like when you're starting a brand to now because there is an actual developed market for it. So I just feel like some kids get tied up in the, oh, I want to make my own decks and I want to have my own brand and I want to sponsor kids, but they don't realize like in order to have a successful brand you have to bring something kind of like almost new to the table when it comes to like whether it's your advertisement or even the boards itself. No, yeah, like I totally understand.
It doesn't have to be totally innovative, but it has to be it has to hit a point. It could be innovative, maybe a different shape that someone's not doing. Maybe it's cool art. Maybe it's a really well-crafted deck. And the cool part is now that the barrier to entry to make stuff at a high level, fingerboarding is kind of people like there's like professional woodworkers that are just happen to be fingerboarders now because people who were like 16, 15 when they first started got into those apprenticeships, and now the quality is so really insane. It's like really good. That's all super positive for this scene.
No, that's awesome.
So that part's good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess kind of going back to the way you film and videos and stuff like that. Do you ever see yourself coming out with another full? I know you kind of had like the most recent full length part you had was a little bit ago. Do you see yourself kind of keeping consistent with like one every like so often, or is there like do you ever have bursts of like, ooh, I want to film a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, it will happen. So my original thought with that video was it was winter. I think that's the one you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I was telling all my Seattle friends for like months. I'm like, dude, I got this crazy idea. It's gonna be the Four Seasons. Like I'm gonna do this album by Max Richter, which is like this neo classical take on Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Because I heard about it. I'm like, I love this song. So I decided to make a video. Unfortunately, I'm already like it's already almost summer and I haven't done spring yet. So whatever, like, I didn't get it done. But yes, I do have plans to do more of those type of videos. And I thought the reception was really good. It didn't get as nearly as many likes, or not likes, views as I thought it would. And it's partially because Instagram, it like takes away from that part. So I had like posted each clip in like chunks on Instagram so people could see. But then no one has really saw it. Like the first week, it got like 500 views, and it's maybe had 20 views since. Probably all me watching my own stuff, like always.
yeah. I feel like moving away from the platform that you were so well known on, though. I was gonna touch on this a little bit later. Do you feel like you kind of lost, like, I wouldn't say fans or subscribers, because I know everybody that knew you before this was kind of following you, like follows you around. But like with the new kids and the new generation, do you feel like you've kind of not so much lost touch, but you kind of have to regain what you kind of had before because it's it's new kids, like there's new kids now?
Definitely. Yeah. Like I don't have the street cred as much as I used to, but it seems like a lot of people like that are really good now. Some of them started back then, like, towards when I was doing well. So some of them still know me and stuff, but, or they'll hear about me, I guess. But, yeah, you're right. It's like, I'm definitely not in the limelight, which it's always been that way for me. It's always been, I'll get to a point where people know who I am really well and they'll like my stuff. And then I'll just kind of like stop. And then I come back again, no one knows me again, and then I come back up, and same story,
I got you. It's kind of like funny. A consistent, humble, like level of growth, I guess you can say, and I just think it's funny, like, there's a lot of new Instagram fingerboarders or people with like a whole bunch of like followers, like tons and tons, but though you look at who's following them and it's like, okay, it's a bunch of young kids and things like that, and then you look at yours and you might not have as many followers as them, but like the people that do follow you, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's followed by all these brands. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
like the new legitimacy is like like, yeah, like I'm not followed by a ton of people, but if you look at who it is, these are some real people, and it's like I think that's funny that like, and it'll always kind of retain who you are, and like that's why people will always kind of know your name because you do, not only just who you are, but the people that you have fingerboarded with will always kind of keep you relevant. Like, I think that's something that's interesting.
Anybody that's like, I mean, there's quite a few people that if they came back, you'd hear like people go, "Oh my God, like this person's back." And about 95% of people that are on Instagram fingerboarding wouldn't know who that person was, but there's like that 5% where like that guy was so sick back then,
Like, oh my god. Yeah, that's actually pretty hilarious.
Back, the only one that stick around, I guess, me and like Nick Allen, and he just came back recently too. So
yeah, I feel like there's always that, like, I don't know. I feel like there's always gonna be, even though I've had like 4 of them, like that second win with like, well, I got some time where I can mess with this. Like, it's something it's hard to walk away from when it was so much of like a part of what you did before.
Right.
Going off of that, like, do you ever feel like, or I guess I don't want to kind of like reveal anything that you may be doing in the future, but is there ever like a point where like you feel like, I know you had FFI and all this stuff that you kind of want to, or you want to do the searchable wiki and things like that. Is there anything else that you thought about that you're like, you know what, maybe this is one other thing that I can bring to the like to the fingerboarding scene, or is there something that you've done in the past that you were like, oh, this is going to be something I really want to do that kind of hasn't, like, you haven't really fleshed out yet that you're like wanting to do?
Definitely. So a long time ago, maybe it's let people submit and connect to Instagram, and they can pull maybe a few videos that they've done recently. Um, yeah, I don't know how you do it. I'm still thinking about it. Okay. Oh shit. Okay, sure.
I'm sorry about that, guys. The power just went out because of the storm I'm having, but he's gonna re-explain the whole idea that he had. I'm so sorry, guys. That was totally my
No
fault on
problem.
my end. But go ahead.
This site FB Weekly, that was like a blog, right? I told you about that earlier and I explained it earlier. I let it I changed it to like a something called Fingerboard Network for a bit, and it was like this social media platform. Basically, think about Facebook for fingerboarders type of idea, where people could write their own blog
Right.
posts, and then we have editors from around the world, same people before, plus maybe a few new ones that would still write the main content,
Right. So like
but we
on
could
staff.
spotlight certain posts.
Right.
Exactly. So we'd have people that would do spotlight certain posts, and then that way everybody can contribute. Like that was my goal, was to have the whole world, anybody from any scene could post something, and if it was good and good quality, doesn't matter who's in it or at all. But if it's a good quality post that's well written, has maybe has good pictures or a great video, put it up. Let's get in that stream. Let's make it so it's super thriving and live. So we started that, but I never. But then what happened basically was I was a broke college student and I ran out of money and I couldn't afford web hosting payments. So
Oh god.
GG, right?
No, exactly. Good game in on that one. Oh man.
Uh,
See, that's funny how like even at the young age, sometimes things out of like you can't really, I wouldn't say control, but like those things will affect your wants. With that.
yeah, totally. And it's something that I think we could idea could work today, but it has to involve Instagram. Like, so yeah, totally.
Exactly, and I will say this: like, it's hard, getting everybody on like not so much like a different like platform, but it's hard to get everybody to move back and forth. Because even with this, I'm using Twitch because I don't like iTunes and the way that you have to set up posting things like that. And I also want people to feel like if they want to donate or anything like that for future, like I don't even know, reviews or whatever. I want to have that option for people. But I also feel like no one wants to like, oh, I'm on Instagram right now, I can't watch this on Instagram, then I don't care. It's like ugh. And I feel like with something alive like that, like with what you're talking about, that could be so beneficial to people that may not have the same scene as someone like in California or Seattle or whatever it may be. Like I feel like that could be so beneficial.
And the future of fingerboarding?
Yeah. What is it?
Twitch. It's something like it's Twitch. It's Twitch, man. Like think about it, live streaming your session like that. I'm
Exactly.
surprised it hasn't taken off yet. All the young gamer kids that are already there gaming switch
Exactly.
it to fingerboarding. Like it's so easy. But I see only a few people do it. So I'm kind
I'm
of
gonna be
surprised.
honest. Like I thought like as soon as I started to stream, like I've been streaming on Twitch for about 3 years. I'm not like a competitive gamer, but I played some fighting games in the past often. But I saw like this platform is so like easy to use, and like everybody wants to go Instagram live and play skate, but it's like you could use something so much more like solid, like OBS, like open broadcast. Like you just have to try to learn
Yeah.
the program, and I feel like that's the separation between like it's so easy to do something like that, like posting on Instagram, that kids don't want to learn like, oh, let me learn OBS or like like some sort of streaming software, and it's just like
You know,
it's just so
yeah,
untapped.
it's gonna take somebody like Shroud or Ninja to come in and just like start fingerboarding, and then everyone's gonna be streaming fingerboarding. Someone's gonna do it.
There you go.
Some
Me,
kid's
no, what we
gonna.
gotta do is me, you, Mike, and everybody. Like we all gotta like pitch in and like pay Ninja off and be like, "Yo, man, if you just fingerboard for like 5 minutes, like I guarantee this shit will pop off."
To have.
But
Like he
that's
makes so much per hour, like it's unreal. So.
oh my gosh, yeah, it's interesting to think that, and just the game that he chose to play at the right time. Like, oh, that's so interesting for him and his little experience.
Yeah,
I
I
guess.
used to play against him in Halo, man.
Oh no, and
Yeah,
that's
so
what's
it's kinda
funny is
funny.
he was like so competitive Halo scene
Yeah.
before that, and he never got the like
Yeah, it's
like the same recognition. Oh, that's funny.
he was
That's
always like really, really, really good. But then he goes to like Fortnite and he plays the right game, right time, and
exactly.
it blows up. Obviously, yeah. Okay, off the gaming. Yep.
I think when he hosted the Halo MLG series for Halo 5, like just the most recent one that happened, that was like the most viewers they've seen in like forever because of the fact that like Halo is so dead. But he was able, like even being an ex-pro, he was able to bring 100,000 people back over. Like I found that so funny.
Well, that's what
Oh,
they need, a personality like that can get everybody hyped up. Because that game used to be like the best game ever, man.
exactly.
Play
Halo
all
was
the time.
always legit. Gotta have that little Halo
Yeah.
talk mid interview. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'm gonna ask you.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
because I'm over. I've literally kept you for almost an hour and a half, and
Yeah, no
I
problem.
try to keep these under an hour. But this was I kind of was like I'm gonna keep this for an hour and a half because this is kind of an important interview. I'm gonna ask you two more questions, and then I'll give you time to shout out whoever you want to shout out. You can say whatever you want to say, or the ending time is yours, and then I'll finish this out. But the first question I want to ask is, I guess overlooking fingerboarding and everything that you've done in it and things like that. If there's one thing that you could have been the guy to be like, I made that, or I started this, what would it have been? Because you have started so many trends. Like, what was one trend that you saw? You're like, damn, why didn't I do that?
Dude, that's a good question. Trends like fingerboard related, like exactly fingerboard, or it could be anything.
I mean, I guess kind of. I mean, like even now, like you see people holding beers like while they fingerboard, and that seems like a trend right now. Like it doesn't have to be exactly fingerboarding, but things you see in
Okay.
fingerboarding that's like okay.
So there was a time. I mean, this is maybe not as popular now, but there's like multiple tricks named after me.
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware of that, but like a nollie kickflip, sex change, revert is like called a Chris Daniels, and then there's another one that's a different trick that's also called a Chris Daniels, and there's another one. There's like 4 or 5 of them that people coin. I think it's a joke. It was a joke back then that every trick is a Chris Daniels because people would see me do it a lot and then they copy it. So if you YouTube my name, you'll see like some fingerboarders doing what's called a Chris Daniels. So that's probably like the coolest contribution, that there's like multiple tricks named after me. So it gets kind of confusing when someone says do a Chris Daniels in a game of skate, and then people are like, which one?
Yeah, right. Like it's like a ton of them at this point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all right,
Yeah.
all right. And the second question, I ask everyone this. This is like the question I always end on, but I think we'll get an interesting, I guess, answer from you, as you've already done so much. Before you leave this life, and I guess like if you ever decide to quit fingerboarding or whatever it may be, where you just don't have any more contact with fingerboarding or anything, if there's one thing you want people to know about you, or like know about what you did in fingerboarding, or like what is something you want to leave behind in fingerboarding for people to recognize you as?
Besides of how skilled I am, I'm just joking. No, I think it's for me is always to be a positive contributor. All this all the stuff over the years that I've done, like with the FB Weekly, was huge. I thought contribution to this like worldwide scene and kind of build it together. And that's what I wanted to be known for personally. And I'm hoping to do more of that stuff. So hopefully there's something else in the horizon that I can do in a few years, that can make another game changer. So
Dude, that'd be awesome. Like I just here, like because like I said earlier, like there were so many things that you did that like were ahead. You know, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm cutting out, I think.
No, yeah,
Can
that's
you hear
my
me?
fault. Like, I'm literally, that's why I'm trying to hurry up and cut it, because I'm about, my house is about to blow over. But
Oh no.
basically, like, it's just, you've already done so much, and you've already done so many influential things. It's just, the scene was so young, and it's just, I think that if you, I know, like, especially being old now, like, I wouldn't say old, but like us, you know, you're at the age where you kind of, oh, I gotta go to work, I gotta take care of my girlfriend, my family, and if you want to start a family soon or whatever it may be, like, I don't know, finding that time to do like that little
Yeah.
bit, or finding someone that can help, you know, like putting this, like, I don't know, I wouldn't say a younger person, but like, I feel like you could reinvent some of those ideas and they would be hits, you know what I mean, nowadays. And I would just love to see you flesh that stuff out, man.
I would love to too. So it might be a little bit for me to put something together, but I always come back and I always try something. So we'll see
Hey,
if
man.
something can stick and it can last and help bring the scene together.
All right, guys. Chris Daniels, the comeback kid. You want to, like? I'll give you this
Yep.
time to say what you gotta say. You know, shout out to it's the many sponsors, the many people that you've met over the years. You know, this is your time. Go ahead,
Definitely. So first off, thank you, Stevie, for the interview.
dude. Thank you, man.
I really appreciate it. I've been watching your stuff. Actually, I've watched every episode for a long time now, and I love what you're doing and keep it up, man. It's really
Dude, thank you
cool.
so much. That means like
Super
everything.
positive. Yeah. So you need more views though. It's like crazy how like people don't see how good this content is, and you're pumping out great stuff, and slowly but surely I see this momentum building up with it. More and more people see it, so it's awesome. So keep it up, man.
Thank you so much.
I'll do the shout out to the sponsors next, and that's going to be right now. We're going to talk about first in alphabetical order. We have Berlin Wood. Much love to the people, to Timo and all those guys out there that hand make the decks. It's not just one person. There's multiple people that hand make this deck, hand shape it, hand drill everything. It's top notch, man.
Ooh.
Everything's done by hand.
Sounds good.
Let's go to Black River Ramps with Martin. Great friend of mine, great company. I don't think you can make. A lot of people try to mimic it or clone it. You got to do something different, man. You got to be like Arc Ramps, because you're not going to take Black River stuff and do it better than them. You can't. You have to do something different, innovated like Arc Ramps, and people are doing it, which is good. But Black River has like some of the best wood ramps ever, and concrete and rails. They're amazing. Then there's Flatface wheels. They make not only the best wheels, they make some amazing fingerboards. And sometimes you'll see me use a Flatface instead of a Berlin wood at times when I feel like trying something a little bit different.
Right.
And then Young Lords, it's founded by my friend Tai, and he's just like a legit fingerboarder, really amazing skateboarder too, super cool, really good personality, man, really good energy. And it's like a clothing line, and wait till you see what the shirts look like. They look sick.
Oh man.
So
we're
that's
waiting.
my sponsors.
Awesome.
A couple more shout outs. So shout outs to all my friends from the rendezvous that I met again. It was great to see you all the people that are from Europe. Love you guys. Everybody around the world. It's been amazing to have all such good friends, whether I met you or not. I really appreciate you all, and all those viewers right now. Appreciate you too.
Ooh.
And then a really special shout out to all the guys in Seattle and the Northwest. So we have a great scene here. We have like at Gabe Scott, we have at PNWFB, we have at Imprint After, we have at Alex Empolio. We got, I got him a spot, D Cheesy FB, Joey McAdams. Follow these guys, man. These guys are all really good. I'm probably forgetting more people, but we have such a great crew of people up here that are like, probably I'd say between us and Chicago, the Chicago crew, I don't think you have a better concentration of fingerboarders in terms of skill, man. I don't think so.
Awesome.
There's like a competition. Pick your best five. We got the best five.
Nah, dude,
Seriously.
I feel that, like, especially coming up under you. I'm sure there's some guys throwing bangers, and Cheesy's a great friend, and I can't wait to. I think we'll be having him very soon. But
Awesome.
Chris, wait, did you have any
I'm
more?
supposed to have a beer with him soon. That's it.
Oh, dude, well, like I said, man, thank you so much for coming on. I still can't believe that you all like agreed to do this. Like, I still, like, sometimes when I ask people, I'm like, well, this is a shot in the dark. And the fact that you've always been so responsive, and like you said, you're here for the community. I feel like everybody like should feel that way about all your footage, and they definitely need to give you a follow. If you're young and you don't know who he is, just look for him. You'll see him everywhere on any platform. Like I said, dude, thank you so much for coming on. I'll cut you loose now. I've been
Awesome,
grilling
Steven.
you.
let me know if you ever want me back on for a segment or something. I'm always down.
Oh, well, we definitely will. I'm definitely already thinking about what we can do next, man, because, just having someone with your experience, it's critical that people hear this and it stays going on, So definitely we'll have you.
Definitely, man.
Thank you so much for coming on, all right? Have a good one.
You're welcome, man. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Guys, a little bit of technical difficulties because my house is being destroyed by a rainstorm. But holy moly, Chris Daniels. What an interview. Hour and 30 minutes of talking real fingerboarding. And he told us everything we wanted to know, man. We went down the list. We got to get him back. Oh, excuse me. We got to get him back, though. Of course, there's some nitpicky stuff we can always ask him. Maybe get some of them beefs, them old school beefs out there. But that's so interesting to hear from someone, that's so well known in the scene, in the sense of, people who really have been like in the origin of it. And especially in America, I feel like, yeah, if you're in Europe, it's, it's always kind of been a consistent, you have team on stuff, but like talking to the guys who brought that over, you got Chris Daniels coming out, showing love, these old school guys, that's critical for the growth and like making sure we don't fall into bad rhythms and habits as a scene. Again, thank you so much, man, for coming on. I can't wait to have you on again. As usual, I'm your boy Stevie Harkins. I do the Sesh. I'm still very shook that we did that. Got more big episodes coming this week. I think this Saturday we got Beef Decks. That's going to be super fun to talk to a new brand that's coming out. Had his first stock, and I think he sold it out already. First 2 stocks, I should say. Sold them out. And then on Sunday, we're going to have fucking Matt. FKN.Matt. He's a pro rider for monorails. He's going to come on and talk about the new rails they got. And he's going to talk about just being a pro, his whole little scene. And then, like I talked about a little bit earlier, I want to start a new segment where we come and talk to up-and-coming riders that are not sponsored yet, but are very confident in their riding and have great clips. And basically, we're going to be reaching out this week. And we're going to have that coming at you next week, I believe. We're going to be starting out with, I forget who it exactly. Hang on, let me look. I can pop that open real quick. I think it is SW. Hang on. Open up my oh yeah, by the way, if you're a pro or anybody of importance, slide in my DMs, bro. I want to talk to you. Okay, SW_index.FB. He's a new fingerboarder. I saw one of his first clips when he did the no look challenge, and it was a banger. And I was like, oh man, this guy's not even sponsored, and he's putting out bangers. So we're gonna talk to him and a couple other guys that are up and coming. I just gotta reach out to them first, but he's my only confirmed one. But everybody that came by, everybody that's listening in, or if you're watching on YouTube after this is recorded, thank you so much for coming by, guys. Like I said, all subscribers on the Twitch, you guys are the people that keep this shit going because I do this out of my own pocket and my own heart. I love doing this. I love bringing this information to you guys. Show me love on Instagram. If you're a hater, fuck off, I guess. There's plenty of you guys on there, so thank you guys for constantly shitting on my content. But the guys who love it, thank you guys even more. You gotta respect everybody in this life. So. Like I said, I'm Stevie Harkins, at Stevie from the Sesh on Instagram. Today was another great episode. Thank you again, Chris Daniels. Like I said, I'll see you guys this weekend. And we're going to pump some tunes before we get out of here. Oh, we're going to pump this one. Oh, yeah. I'll see you guys later.